We are live. All right, Jenny.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jenny Turi, and I'm the clerk for the Village of Ruidoso. And I'm going to have those sitting at the table and go around and introduce themselves so that you'll know who is sitting before you today.
I am Yvonne Bartz. I am the deputy clerk for the Village of Ruidoso.
I'm John Russell. I'm with Finance. I am a project manager.
My name is Matthew Baird. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the Village of Ruidoso.
I'm Levi Beatty. I'm also a project manager for the village.
I'm Chris Armijo. I'm the Water Resource Director.
I'm Ashley Carvajal. I'm the Water Resource Manager.
I'm Lawrence Chavez. I'm the Chief of Police.
I'm Ron Senna. I'm the village manager here. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Have a great crowd here. Jenny's going to explain the process. This is really a good turnout, and it's always great to have the residents here to any type of infrastructure projects that we want to submit to the state. We like to get input from our residents. So, Jenny?
Okay, the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, known as ICIP for the village. It's a plan, it's a planning tool. It's a list of projects, if you will, projecting over a 5-year period. Like I said before, it's a planning tool establishing priorities. What are the most important things that we would like to see done in the village as far as creating a new fixed asset? Some of the criteria for ICIP project should be it creates a new fixed asset. It enhances one of our existing fixed assets. It needs to have a life expectancy of 10 years. And it's an ideal situation if we're ready to proceed with that project. This is not a wish list. These are things that the village needs. What happens is that, like I said, this covers a 5-year period. So the plan that we're working on right now is for the time period of fiscal year 2026 to 2030. We create this plan, and I provided the project summary of the one that we had for last year, which was for 2025 through 2029. So what you see in front of you is a list of infrastructure projects that we prioritized. And we prioritize whether or not we want to start them in what fiscal years, as an example, 2025 or 2026, 27, 28, 29. And it shows also so we state the project, it shows what maybe we have already been funded for to date, and then additional funding that we're looking for. And what we do with this list is we submit it to the Department of Finance with New Mexico. And then when the legislatures convene session in January, February, March, whatever month the session starts, the legislators will actually look at this list. And suppose a certain group of legislatures will say, okay, you have a pot of, example, $5 million for Lincoln County. So municipalities submit this list, and so does the county. So they like for us to have town hall meetings so that we can get input from those that live in the village as to what they're looking for. Like I said, we're establishing priorities, and because we have this list, it increases our chances of getting funding because state agencies can look at this list and know what the Village of Ruidoso, what their needs are. So the purpose of this meeting today, this town hall meeting, is we would like to hear from you what kind of projects, such as housing, bridge replacements, sewer, water line, any kind of major infrastructure project that would have a life of 10 or more years. So that's the purpose of this town hall meeting today. We would like to hear from you all about what kind of projects that you're looking for us that we might be seeking funding for.
Do we have any ideas or any projects that someone wants to start with? Go ahead, Tracy. You want to come up to the table there and turn the microphone on and...
Yes, sir. On Fern Trail, we have one way in, and it is about wiped out now. We have to come in through the backside of the old Thriftway. That road is on the one curve. there's only about enough space for the vehicle to get through right now. The bridge is wiped out. Have no bridge, can't get out the other way because it is wiped out. And there's like around 6 of us that live in there that still have homes. Everything else is wiped out. But we have no other way in or out.
If you come onto, first off, the trouble at night.
If you're not talking in the microphone, the people.
There's only enough room, and the last time it flooded, on the last flood, it took out another 2 foot of it. So now you're looking at maybe 2.5 feet on each side to get in. The other side has a brick wall, a concrete deal that goes around it, around the house, the front of the house. And so once that other little piece goes, there's no way in, no way out.
Okay. Thank you.
So Tracy, you're looking for a bridge on Grindstone to access, is it Grindstone that runs by the old phone company?
By the old,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
you're looking to replace that bridge? Is that the project
Yes,
you're
sir.
proposing?
Yes, sir. And the bridge has not got a very deep tunnel to it, so every time everything comes down, it's clogged, because you know what's hanging in all the trees and all the rest of the things that are wrapped around every tree. And everything's just clogging it right back up. And then it overflows from there, and then it comes back down to the top of our place, and everybody else from all the way down the river, once it's. Yes, sir. They have done a fine job with that. The village has done a fine job keeping that thing cleaned out, and they've done a lot of hard work on it. I mean, they have done a fine job on that one. But ours, there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. All right.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut. My bad.
Jacob?
Yeah, hey y'all, Jacob Rigsby. This might fall under number 2 that we have ranked here, which is bridge replacement projects. I know that we're looking to get federal funding and other funding to help replace the bridges, as the gentleman just described. I think another capital improvement plan that would be beneficial, pending, feedback from FEMA and the Fed, is multiple ways in and out of certain parts of Upper Canyon to allow for safe departure from that area. There are certain parts of Upper Canyon that you can only get across with one bridge, and having the ability to either go up and over into Brady Canyon or up and over into Flume Canyon would be what I would hope to prioritize, depending on feedback from the Fed.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's already known, but I want to make it stated.
Appreciate it. No, Will. Thank you.
Jennifer Brewer, and I would also like to put a bridge at Grindstone as a priority. I have pictures on my phone if y'all would like to see, but there's this much, it's filled with silt and such, and so there's only about 4 feet for water to clear under. And this is that bridge was a problem in 2021, and NRCS thought it should be cleaned out or raised or something, and nothing was done then. So hopefully we'll get a bridge, a decent bridge. And would you like to see pictures? At Grindstone.
Same bridge.
Yeah, and it's just completely clogged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Daryl McKay. I own the property off Sutterth. The address is 664 Sutterth Drive. And it sits adjacent to the Two Rivers Riverwalk. And I would like to see some water mitigation or some flood control or something happening kind of right there, especially in the future. My property just keeps getting flooded out every time it rains. And it's due to that bridge right there at the Two Rivers Park. Every time it backs up right there, it goes down Sutterth. And when the river breaches the bank, that's when it tends to flood my property. And then unfortunately, my property is the first line of defense for all of Sudderth. So right now, we're all flooding because of that issue, and I would just like to see that handled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others that want to, any projects that you want to? No, we're asked,
Parlay off of the 664 address on Sudderth. I own the property at 640 Sudderth Drive. Basically from 640, I'm at the tail end of it, up to about 670 Sudderth where the Chamber of Commerce is. As Daryl had mentioned, every time it rains, we get trashed. And part of the problem is the bridge that goes over the park that he had mentioned, right there just downriver from the Chamber of Commerce. It plugs up. It's known that it plugs up because they put a guy there on culvert watch every time it rains. And then you get about 45-second notice when the river flows onto the road before it comes in and trashes your house. You know, we live on the river. We pay for flood insurance like we have to, that's required of the bank and whatnot. The river's not flooding us. It's failed infrastructure that's trashing our properties from 640 to 670 Sutter. So like with that said, the culvert that we're talking about downriver from the Chamber of Commerce is not the only problem. If you cross over that culvert and you head up, by the time the water gets to us, I'm watching dumpsters go down the river and they're doing 70+ miles an hour.
Yep.
You know, I don't know what has to be done, but something has to be done to slow down the goddamn water before it gets to town. Because we are just getting destroyed over and over and over. And I know you got it on the docket for a bunch of different stuff that's regarding water and whatnot, but like, you know, we're talking about fiscal year 2025. We need it now, like right now. And I know the Department of Transportation for New Mexico is in charge of Sudderth right there, but you can't get them to lift a finger to do anything. They won't even clean the grates out. And so, you know, you as representatives of this village, you got to come up with some kind of plan here. That's all I got to say.
thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Stevie. I have a specific question. Has there been any discussion, or is there going to plan to be any discussion on flood mitigation concerning Meacham and Sudderth at Adobe Plaza, which we all know was just completely destroyed? And the foundational part of the riverbank behind the strip center, behind Slotsky's and all that, is completely gone on the bottom. It's completely gone. So will there be any discussion of what to do with the Adobe Plaza and how you're going to handle that? I'd like to know that, please. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mack, we're here asking for questions on projects, but that'll be further down the line when we have more information regarding, we do have some state officials that have been looking at that area there behind the Slotskys, on that area there behind the Adobe Plaza. But right now, we're asking for projects that we can consider to put in our ICIP plan. So thank you for your question.
Hi, Andrea Fernandez, Ruidoso resident. So I would like to consider consolidating some of these items. For me, I look at how can we reduce trash in our village, which means reducing costs. And so for me, that I would envision a resource center where we could take items that could be repurposed. It would have a sanitation system so that it could sanitize glassware or containers, and then we can get it back into the hands of the people who would use it. We've been doing this at the farmers market where people are happy to turn in produce containers and jars, and we reuse it. And so we're building on this model, and people are enthusiastic and waiting for a new solution. And we know recycling doesn't work, so that would be the first request. And the second one is I see a lot of different items for Parks and Rec, this or that. And for me, I would like, in line with reducing trash, water refill stations at all our community centers, the library, the parks, I know that there's outdoor ones that are appropriate for freezing and indoor ones that, it's the up and coming trend. We should have it at the courthouse. We see it in many places, so it's definitely a doable model. And then transportation has been on my radar for a long time, and now that we've seen a lot of devastation, it's going to affect people who, with low income, and so we can't always fix housing. It's a big project, it's got lots of barriers, but if we could alleviate transportation costs and make our community, there's some trail repair on this list, there's sidewalk repair on this list, so if we can consolidate that and really target transportation, I think we could have a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you.
I feel like I have to, and thank you guys for opening this forum for residents, but my name's Dana. I also live along Fern Trail. Our life savings is invested down there. We own 6 total lots. We have 3 rentals. 1 is a complete loss due to the flooding. 1 has water damage. Hopefully we can save it. And 1 is inaccessible because of the condition of Fern Trail. So my recommendation is, I see that there's flood and drainage improvement and flood mitigation on here, but I just beg you guys to put that at the forefront, because this is we lost our business to this. People have lost their homes. Many other businesses have been lost on top of the fires. And whatever you guys can do to mitigate that now would be greatly appreciated. Also, like the gentleman said in Upper Canyon, if we could create other access, like I've spoken with Ron about, and he was, very gracious to look into that. But if there is, like one of our properties is fine, untouched by water, but we can't access it. So if the village is able to make alternate access where we are not in danger of flash flooding, then I think that would be beneficial across the village. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Scott, a resident, not very long, year. I do believe that when you're looking at the budget, I think a task force or a committee with a civil engineer, maybe, that needs to be involved before you put anything into play. I think somebody with some expertise needs to go through and look to see what happens. I don't think we should be purchasing anything until everybody in this town can access their homes or have water. The water situation, and I feel guilty because my home is fine. And so we were without water 2 weeks ago for a week. It's kind of pitiful that I'm complaining, but apparently there was a lot of money directed to handle the drinking water situation, and that wasn't handled. Now, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think that there are some we just need to put a kiss it on this. Keep it simple, people. The basic things. And the other thing I think would be great is a communication center. Make that a capital, if you've got to make it a capital campaign. The information that was designated and disseminated throughout the last 6 weeks has been awful. It's been not only misinformation given to the residents. Facebook is not the place. I'm sorry, I don't believe that's the place. I'm active on Facebook all the time, so it's not that I'm not. But then people turn around and repost and do things, and information just isn't being sent down to people correctly. So I think that's really critical. But I think it needs to be very simple. People need to be able to live here. And we need to be able to invite people in and say, come on back. We're good to go. If we don't have the tourists here, none of us are gonna have a grocery store. We're not gonna have anything left. We've got to have those people, and that has to be the focus here, not any of the other stuff. But I feel like it's a simple process, and I know that I may look at it that way. I'm an accountant by trade, by background, and so I look at it and I'm like, this really doesn't seem difficult to me. But we have a lot of people who are willing to volunteer in this town to help. And I think we're not utilizing that resource somehow. The police, the fire chief, everybody has been affected by this. And I just don't think there's anything else that should be discussed until we handle all of that stuff. And it's not gonna, if we don't do something now, 1 year from now, when the monsoons start again, everybody's gonna have the same problems. We need retaining walls, we need ponding, we need things that are gonna make sense to keep this situation from happening again, because there's no way that everybody's gonna be able to get up there, cut all the trees down. Part of it's, national forest. Part of it belongs to folks who really don't have the ability anymore. But as far as capital money goes, we've got to get our town back. And whatever that has to be, we need to do it. And I think there's a room full of people here that would be more than happy to volunteer to sit on a committee to help look at things. Business owners would be more than happy to look at this stuff. But we're going to have to, like I said, just kiss it a little and keep it really simple. And I think it's not a capital issue, but I think everybody that works for the city, the fire department, all those folks need to be considered for raises. They've worked their buns off for all of us. But beyond that, I think we need to pull back and look at what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to see if anybody online has any questions?
Yes. Mostly bridges, grading for redesign of culverts, road crossings on Perk, Peak, Ebarb, and St. Vitus.
Okay,
So
we can get,
it's about flooding.
let's, if we can document all that,
Yeah,
please?
got it.
All right.
Hi there, I'm Timmy Eckert. I'm a lifetime local of Lincoln County. I agree with Andrea on the consolidation of some of these project ideas and things like that. I'm curious about how much, like, you guys work with Ruidoso Downs and doing this, because like they're saying, it's flooding, it's getting down, it's like messing up Ruidoso Downs too, so maybe like working with them, I'm sure you guys are, but maybe to get things going along faster, that would be a good idea. Also, I'm curious about the screens in Midtown. Why aren't they utilized for like warnings and telling people the flood stuff? Because there's like 2, and I'm pretty sure they were pretty expensive. Like, is there like a reason we haven't turned those on during this whole time? Does anybody know that?
And which screens are those? Is that the one
They're
of the
at start
Midtown
of
Association?
Midtown? Yeah,
Yes.
they're.
The Midtown Association.
So those are not owned by the village, they're owned by the Ruidoso Midtown Association. And I believe they're still waiting on parts to finish the installation of them. There were some parts on back order.
Okay.
That's the reason they haven't been turned on yet.
And but you guys do fund them a little bit, so sometimes like some of these projects would be like considered into that funding, and it's like, that was obviously decided on, and now we're still like without screens, which I know it's like simple, but that would have been really helpful during all of this. Okay, also on the, clearly we're gonna be doing a lot of flood control stuff and bridges, like that's the main thing our town needs right now. When we do that, how they have it in other cities with the arroyo being like a bike path and walkable, I really think like it's like our time to shine on creating a walkable community from Ruidoso Downs up to Ruidoso, because a lot of locals live in Ruidoso Downs, and even though it's like technically 2 cities, we really need to be like working together with that. city, which I'm actually from Ruidoso Downs, but I like living, both. We're all here, so
Thank you.
that's it, but thank
All
you.
right. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Angie Olivas, and I've been a part of this community for 24 years. I'm a Realtor and a property manager of short-term rentals. Started my business 24 years ago doing this. Love the river. I own about at least half a dozen properties on the river. Lost my cabin, I think, on Fern Trail. Mine's right next to the Shanks property. I really believe that the reason we lost our properties there on the river is because of a faulty bridge. I see we have all this money allocated in 2025, 26 for bridge replacement. It's ranked 2. But why are we still having faulty bridges even after Hurricane Dolly? I owned a property on the river during Hurricane Dolly, lost the bridge then, was told that it was on our property, so it was up to us to replace it. We couldn't afford it, so the bridge is no longer in existence. That's the one behind river crossing. So I just don't understand how come we've known for 20 years that our bridges are faulty, and how come they keep getting put on the back burner. I agree with what people have said that, it's bridges and infrastructure, that's our foundation of our whole village. Without taking care of bridges and the river, remediation of our river's flat, it's a table. Yeah, there's no banks, I mean, the water just has no place to go. It needs to be deeper. So that's where we need to really focus and invest our capital is in river and bridges. I know even the chamber, we're all in tourism. And I feel like all throughout this, I'm 2 sides to the coin. I want our visitors here. I need our visitors here. That's how I've made my living for 24 years. But on the other hand, I turn around and I'm panicking. When I'm losing a home on the river, it's being flooded out, but then I'm turning around and asking visitors to come here. Sure, I'm only placing people in properties that are deemed safe. I will not put anybody in a river property or any place that's flooding or, we're very careful and responsible about doing that. It's getting harder and harder, even getting here today, we all know. We all probably had to turn around and find another route. So again, it's our foundation is our river and our bridges. And the amount of money allocated on this, funding to date on bridge replacement, that's just a tiny little fraction.
And Angie, if I can just on the other years, those are part of our planning on trying to submit this. Those are just costs that we're submitting as part of the plan. It's not what's been funded or what's allocated. Like you said, the first one is from the bridge that we did before. And those are just amounts that we're putting into our ICIP plan. So those are funds that we are looking to. We're working with FEMA still and Department of Homeland Security on those bridges, as you mentioned. That has been since the Hurricane Dolly flood. So you're correct. Those are projects that we've been working on with the state and with the feds and haven't been awarded those funds.
I think we need to just not count on FEMA. We need to take our lodgers tax money and even put lodgers tax money towards our infrastructure, because we can't ask our visitors to come here and enjoy a beautiful park that we just put $5 million in if our river and bridges and roads are falling apart.
Thank you.
I would like to see a show of hands. How many of you have driven, I'm so sorry, how many of you have driven down Fern Trail in the last 5 days? I just want to see hands. How many of you, representing us, have driven down there? How many of you have driven down Fern Trail? It's very easy to drive down and go through Upper Canyon and into all these valleys because that's a current place to travel. But for those of you, I just ask you, just drive down there once. Just go behind Lowe's and drive down there and take a look. The reason why I'm standing here or sitting here right now is I want to ask for somebody to explain to me the alarm or the siren system that's supposed to help us evacuate. On Monday, the 17th of June, I left town at 11 o'clock. When I was driving out of town, I passed a whole lot of fire trucks. And I called Tracy and I said, is there a fire somewhere? Like, should I be like worried about the house? Like, what's going on? Like, I see all these fire trucks. I was talking to him when I reached Las Cruces at 5 o'clock and the siren went off. I go, is that the fire siren? He said, yes. He goes, we're in evacuation as we speak. I said, why did it take them so long? Why are we not being warned? For us down there on Fern Trail, it's a serious thing. We don't know that the wall, 10 feet of water going 100 miles an hour, like this gentleman said, is coming right at us if it's not raining outside. It rained on the mountain. We hear the roar. We're in the kitchen cooking dinner. We hear a roar. And we can't even hear each other talk. We run out there, and I don't have to tell you guys live here too. But that wall is coming down, and there is no warning. Isn't there some kind of a system? We don't have to have it like blaring out. We could have something like 3 short things means it's raining on the mountain. So if you live somewhere that you need to not be on a main road so you're not stuck in a culvert or some situation, there has to be a warning way. There has to be a warning system before it arrives on your front porch.
How's it going, everybody?
Good, thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for everything that you guys have done. Obviously, the issues that we're dealing with today are the result of a very extreme situation, which none of us really could have fully comprehended. So thank you guys for putting this together also. Yeah, kind of like everybody else is talking about, getting those bridges back together in a way that, doesn't shut down the town whenever we're experiencing these floods is paramount. But I think everybody in this room knows that. So I think the things that, we need to focus on is, there's going to be money that comes in and these things are going to get addressed. But, it's been alluded to before, making sure that we're making the best situation out of this, with walking trails or parks or, anything that we can do in that aspect, because, anything that we can do to bring back tourists is going to be important moving forward. So that along with, it's a good opportunity to update infrastructure that is aging and or, not in a very ideal place right now. So, taking that into account and then looking at, I know this is probably pretty far out there, but, looking at like Alpine Village, is it possible to incorporate those? And I know that that's, an infrastructure issue as well, but, if we're looking for ways to strengthen the town, which that's what this is, then, considering things like that would also be good to look at. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
My name's Randall Hamilton. I live at the second bridge in the Upper Canyon. We did not get flooded out, but we were close. That bridge is a temporary bridge and has been temporary since 2008. We hope to have a permanent bridge one of these days. The focus of this meeting is for the infrastructure, the input on the infrastructure. But I think that the meeting today has shown a need for a town hall meeting just for the residents to express their concerns about the village and what is going on. The Upper Canyon, I'll keep my comments just to it. The McDaniel Bridge is out and not even a temporary bridge. When our bridge was washed out in 2008, it was the only way out of the Upper Canyon, and they very quickly cleared out the debris, brought in 3 concrete conduits, plowed dirt over the top of it, and evacuated everyone. Well, now the improvements that bridge has had is it got asphalt on top of it. We've been approved multiple times in the village council to have our bridge replaced. Everybody wants their bridge replaced, and it needs to be. The main input that you're getting today for your infrastructure capital improvement plan is focus on the river, focus on the bridge. And I just wanted to say, don't forget about us up in the Upper Canyon. Just because a lot of folks don't ever make it up that way, doesn't mean that we don't need a secondary road to get out in the case of an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? Yvonne, do we have any more comments or questions?
I've documented all that's here.
Anyone else? So what will happen next is, I'm not cutting the meeting off. I just want to explain what's going to happen next is that this plan, we will take all of the public input into consideration, and we will revise the plan, and there will be a resolution, an ICIP resolution presented at the September council meeting that shows the prioritization of the projects, the list that we will be submitting to the state for any funding opportunities that come up in the future. State funding.
Can I just make a request that whenever that happens, that there be, perhaps the village could put out like an action plan for constituents to be able to press their representatives on funding for these things? Oh.
So I was just going to say, perhaps an action plan for the constituents of this village to be able to press these items on their representatives would be helpful, so that all of these items that we're trying to push for funds for, you know, it's not just y'all asking for them, but we can back you up on all of these things. I mean, everybody here wants to say something, so now's the time, right?
Ron?
Just a simple action plan.
Sure.
Yeah, what we do is, again, this is what we submit to the council, goes up to the state, but that's what we have the public hearing for. We want to have input from all of the constituents and whatever projects you all are wanting for the village to consider. I mean, exactly. I mean, that's what we want. That's what we're here today for. We want, exactly.
In terms of when it actually goes to the people that are making the decisions on the dollars, that, you know, any way that we can press them on these things we're able to do so. If that's us, you know.
And what we do, the process is we present it to the council. They make the priorities. They go through the list there and make their priorities. We usually have, we submit the whole plan. We have a top 10, and then we have a top 5 that that's what we use for our capital outlay request that we submit to the state, to our legislators, and then goes up to the legislative session. That's the process on that. So, but like I said, it'll be the September meeting, and if whoever wants to be here doing that item, it'll be a regular item that we do present to the council.
Could the budget not be submitted to us? Oh, I don't think I need that. I'm plenty loud.
We're not going to be able to hear it on when we replay it later.
Could the budget not be village money and how that's going to be spent, and then what we're going to request from other entities? Because I think all of us here are interested in how our tax dollars within this town, within the village, are being spent. When I talked to the state about the water issue, Upper Canyon, not forgetting about you, which affected Black Forest, which is never mentioned anywhere in evacuation. It's never mentioned much of any place. It's like we don't belong. And that's a different issue. But can't there be what we actually are going to pay for and what we should anticipate to see? If it was approved to have the budget or to have the bridges redone since 2008, was that supposed to be out of village funds or out of state funds? And maybe that would help people understand a little more why things aren't being done. Because if it was approved in 2008, then by golly, it should have been done in 2009.
This ICIP
Pretty
is
simple.
This is a planning document. When we submit our this planning document, we're just projecting. We have federal funds in there, like for the bridges. There's FEMA funds, there's state funds, and then there's the village match. This is just a planning document, is what this is.
Well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a planning document, but for those of us who are not part of your discussions all the time, I think it would be very helpful for us to understand why things aren't getting done. Because if the dollars are earmarked for certain projects, then we should be able to hold the village accountable for those projects, if it's village money.
So,
right or wrong?
So this document that we're talking about, as an example, there's been years when not one of these were funded, not one.
Okay, that's, again, I'm asking, village funds versus state funds versus FEMA funds. Are there no village funds earmarked for repairs? Is that what we're understanding today?
What we're doing today, are you saying for the bridges?
I'm saying for anything.
It's just, we have, like for water projects, we have general obligation bonds. We match it with village funds. We have an SGRT fund. But on the bridges, that is FEMA, state, and then we have our local funds as part of that. Whenever we apply for the FEMA funds, we're waiting on the federal funds and we're waiting on the state funds.
Okay, is there not a way we don't have to wait? There are people that can't get to their homes in Upper Canyon. And I'm sorry.
No, we understand.
Right, okay, in Burnt Trail, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to exclude anybody. I'm just talking about the certain things that I do know. But if there are no people living here, there is no reason to have a damn park. Right. I'm sorry. There's nobody that's gonna use it. And I work next door to Schlotsky's, and I hear people all the time coming in and saying, oh, I'm not gonna rebuild. I'm not gonna come back. Oh, I can't afford to. I get it, I understand. And we can only, as public, do so much to help those people. And we've had such great volunteers coming in, and I can't say enough about all the great help that we have had. But we need to know, honestly, what is the village going to pay for? That's what I came here today, was to see what the village was gonna do. Not necessarily waiting on FEMA or the state or anybody else. I need to know what our town is gonna do to help get these people back in their homes.
And today this is our ICIP public hearing, and that's where we wanted to hear what projects our residents, our constituents wanted today to present to this group. That's what we're doing here today.
Okay,
It's a
so,
process we have to do. We follow this process.
okay, so at the next council, at the September council meeting, can we anticipate knowing what the village is going to do to help us?
What we're going to do then is we're going to present this to the governing body. They're going to go over the project list. They're going to make the recommendations for the priorities is what they're going to do.
Okay, I just want a yes or a no. Can we, as the community, as the owner of our water system and everything else, can we anticipate knowing what the village is going to do in 25, 26? That's a yes or no answer.
Anticipate on what projects we're going to move forward with?
And that the village will be responsible for.
This is our planning document that we're going to be submitting to the state.
Okay, you're not answering me, and we're not.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so we're not going to know, is what you're telling me.
At this point, I'm just saying this is what we're here today for, is this planning document.
Okay.
Come on, Fred.
Here.
Okay, I wasn't going to talk, but I'm also, I'm with her, and we've been here about a year. We love this place. We would do anything for it. But as she said, the misinformation and lack of information during the fire, during the flooding was awful. I mean, it was awful. And there's no excuse for it. And spending a lot of time worrying about Facebook is not going to put you in the right place. Everything you guys give to the community should be on your website. That's what it's for. Or you should, send it, put up publications. But you've got to do a better job of getting the word out, and it's got to be accurate. And if you don't have an answer, when we were out of water, we kept calling, and they said, call this number. We'd call the number, and they would say, well, we can't give you an answer. Well, why not? Well, because we don't want to be held to it. Okay, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. But that is unacceptable. Everybody should be accountable. Now, if you say it's going to be a week and it takes you 10 days, at least you gave it a shot. But to tell me I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't want to be held accountable, that ain't right.
And that's what we're asking for, accountability on
Yes.
this budget.
And the other thing I want to say is we got on the website Sunday night, downloaded your agenda, and it wasn't this. It was a totally incorrect document, probably for next week's meeting. So I don't know how that snafu happened, but we wanted to be prepared for the meeting today. There was no way to be prepared because we did not have this document.
The document that was provided is the ICIP plan that we submitted last year to the state, and that's what this meeting is about. It's a public hearing for the ICIP plan.
You put last year's document on for this year's agenda?
Well, we gave everyone a copy to have you see this. We are working on that's the one that's going to be presented.
Okay. As I understand it, the purpose of today was to go through your deal.
To ask for input from the public.
It's hard to give you input when we're just seeing it. We can't give you input in 15 minutes. Somebody spent a lot of time on this. So I forget that the gentleman, he may have left, he said, we ought to have a town hall before you guys take this to a vote before the council. I totally agree.
Okay.
Yep.
We all need another shot at inputting on this after we've got this information. Because if we don't have good information to start with, we can't give you good ideas. Maybe we won't have all the right ideas, maybe you guys will, but you need our input. That's why we're all here today. We didn't come out because we got nothing better to do tonight. So I'm sorry, that's all I got to say.
All right.
Just to clarify, so was this document created then before the floods and fires and everything happened? And this meeting was going to go down regardless of the floods and fires, and we're showing up talking about floods and fire stuff, but this is all already in the works stuff?
That is correct. That is last year's, was approved by the council, submitted to the state. Now we're working on the document that's going to be presented
So
and submitted
that's
to the state.
last year.
Yes.
And we were wanting input
Yes,
for the
we would just
new
wanted
one.
you to, just to have this documented, see some of the projects that we have submitted in the past.
So flood mitigation, et cetera, will be number 24, it might be number 2.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
these numbers are not accurate for the projected budget?
This is a planning document again. It's not for our budget. So,
What is the capital improvement plan if it doesn't have a budget attached to it?
these are projected amounts, part of this document that shows what we anticipate the cost may be if we're awarded or we're seeking grant funds, and that's what this document's for.
So the state legislators will look at that document, and they may only decide to focus on one. This is like a list of what we ask them to consider to fund us on. So they look at this and they're saying, okay, the village is estimating that this is what it would cost to complete this project. And like I said, they look at it, they may decide that it's important to us, they may decide it's not, they may fund it, they may not. So this is a detail of projects that we feel are important, what we estimate that they're going to cost, and how long it would take to complete that project. And then, like I said, no one else considers what's on here except for the state funding agencies. This is just what they look at when the governor gives them their pool of money and says you have $2 million to allocate amongst 5 or 6 municipalities and counties. They look at this and they start saying, okay, we'll give a little here, we'll give a little there, or we're not going to give any at all.
What is the village going to do for next year and the year after? It gave us very clearly on the invitation to this meeting that it would be the village budget for capital improvements for, I believe it said 25 to 30?
I have the notice right in front of me, and it doesn't say that.
26 to 30, I'm sorry, I misspoke, 26 to 30.
It-
We want to know what the village is planning to spend on capital improvements, not the state. We want to know what you all as a council are going to approve.
We're not the council. This is staff here. We're not council.
All right, so the staff,
No,
who's responsible for the budget of you folks?
the governing body, she's the finance director.
There's not budget in here.
Maybe you can help us.
There's not budget listed in this.
Sorry, I'll come back to you.
So I'm Judy Starkovich. So what we're talking about is the damage. That is totally a different funding source than our regular budget. We go through FEMA, and we are assessed damage amounts. So FEMA and the state will come out and they'll look at all our bridges. They'll look at all the new floodplains, and they'll assess X amount of dollars. Part of it will be the federal part will be state, and part will be the village. We will not know those budget amounts until we get the assessment and we get the project worksheet. Now, as the floods and the rains, each time they come, it does new damage. So right now, FEMA is continually going out and updating, but until our monsoon season ends, they will not give us a final amount of what they're gonna give us. Now, once that is done, we'll get.
Yes, somebody has information.
Okay, so once that goes through, we'll get a funding allocation that says, okay, the feds say that your project is gonna be 25 million. The feds are gonna pick up 75%, the state's gonna pick up 18, and then you're gonna be picked up 7%. What this plan does is for our 7%, because if we have $100 million and we're gonna have to come up with that, the village can't afford that. Without either increasing rates, doing debt, we don't wanna do that. We want the state to help us. So what this plan does is that once we see what our share is, we put it on our ICIP, and then when the state decides we're gonna give all the legislators X amount of money, they might see our match and fund it 100%. So then the village will pay zero and we'll get the projects done. Now, okay, so where was I? So we know that the damage is going to be a lot, right? So once we have all the damage assessments and we get our project worksheets, which tells us what they're going to give us, how much is our share, then we will go into a design process. And it's going to be long, I'll just tell you that right now, because once we get it designed, it has to get approved through the state and for FEMA, okay? We're already constantly going out and trying to do damage assessments to get ahead of it, because as you all have seen, the bridges from 2008 haven't been done, and it's not that we haven't been trying. It's been a hard process to get through the state and stuff. So what we're doing is trying everything that we've learned on the old projects, we're trying to be proactive and not do the same thing. So right now, we're actually looking into hiring our own damage assessment person so that he can give a qualified amount, or at least give us an estimate of what the damage is going to be, what we think the damage is, because FEMA will always try to shortchange us. They don't want to pay the full amount and stuff, but we need to have somebody on staff that understands the topography, how the floodplains are and everything, so that we can argue for the full amount, which we've learned in the past that we need to have somebody on staff. So we are currently looking at somebody to get on staff to help us with that. But again, nothing's going to be finalized until the monsoon season is done. So.
Thank you, Judy. But going back to the document again, it is our infrastructure capital improvement plan that we submit to the state every year. And this is the projects that we all list. And again, that's why we had the meeting today, to ask each one of you for any ideas, any projects that you all would like to see that would qualify for state and federal funding. So that's why we're here today.
I'd just like to say something. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm a summer Texan, surprise, but we love it here. We've only been here 2 years, but I come from Houston, Texas. You want to talk about flooding? You want to talk about FEMA? You want to talk about state money? It is a nightmare. I have written grants because I was forced to. When you're talking about looking out for your own best interests of the village, that's the right place to start. Get somebody who's familiar with damages. I'll give you an example for us. During Hurricane Harvey, we had some flood damages. I was on the board of a water and sewer distribution, a little small water and distribution for our area. We had a lot of damage. I started seeking all kinds of grants. FEMA stepped up, but here's the problem. You're looking at 2024, estimating what it's going to take to fix something. You're not going to receive even an award. An award is not a check. Award is just an okay from FEMA that we're going to give you X amount of dollars, that 75% is going to come from FEMA if the state matches, if the village matches. That's in 2024. You're not going to be able to put a shovel in the ground for 2 years.
Which has nobody getting home.
Well, and let me explain something. That money that you said, we say this bridge in your neighborhood is going to cost $1 million, and that's not out of the ordinary. You're basing it on today's cost of goods. We all saw what happened with cost of living. This is my mistake as a grant writer. I only put in 1 or 2% cost of living. I never visualized that after COVID, we would get into 6 and 8% extra cost to get things built, which means you can't go back to FEMA for extra money. You're going to have to build a bridge that fits 2 years from now the cost of materials to get that done. So when you look at these grants and things, keep in mind that you're not going to get shovel-ready money for 2 years or better. So you need to work your numbers up. I'm not saying fudge, because you can't do that with FEMA, but they do understand cost. You just have to make sure you understand it. And having come from Texas to New Mexico, there is a problem here getting all kind of materials. I mean, what we buy in PVC piping in Texas costs a lot more here, and it's just because of the state where we are. That needs to be told to FEMA that this village is going to expect more cost than other areas of flooding that they may be used to when it comes down to it. anyway, I just wanted to give you some experience that we went through. And the other thing, let me explain something to the public. I was so thrilled when we were given a $500,000 grant for our little water distribution company. I didn't realize that engineering was going to take 20% of it. 20%, that's the blueprint of where you can put the shovel in the ground. That first came out of it. So don't think, this is what the public needs to be aware of. You're getting $100 million out of FEMA. It's not all coming to you. It's coming to a lot of people that's going to be building this whole, it's a career. This is an industry. And everybody's got their fingers in it. So don't think that the village is cheating you when you get a bridge that doesn't look like a $100 million bridge. Because that's not what was left after it was all said and done. And I think more workshops, telling the public what they're really going to see, not just political numbers. We're going to give you this, give you this, give you this. The public needs to be aware that there's other things that are going to come in there and take part of that money. And yes, exactly. And the same thing for FEMA help, but with assistance and aid. We see this right now in Houston. We've got a fourth largest city in the United States going on 22 days without electricity. That's a third world problem, but it's happening in the fourth. We got people who are crying that they can't get FEMA money. They just don't know how to apply. It's not getting out the information, how to go through and work those systems, and what you need to bring to FEMA so you don't get their runaround. You go straight through the portal, you have everything you got in your hand or on the phone or online, and you go in and it works. I do like FEMA. I've lived with them for many years. There's a lot of problems that can come out of them, but they do a lot of good. But you got to understand them so they can understand you. And that opening process for all the people here that do need assistance, I can tell they probably need sit down face to face, help them out to get through all of that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Antoinette Rosas, a resident. I have a question on the process of your project planning. So right now, it looks like you have about 19 or 20 projects for 25, 26, and you're asking for input to add more projects. Will these be reevaluated based on risk? I mean, a lot of this, we're so fortunate that we didn't have more loss of life with what's going on and may continue to as we move forward. Also, tourists here, they don't know how and where our process works that our village is running right now. I think as you start to ask our input, are those going to be reevaluated to say what might come off or what do we consider higher risks that need to be put forward? Because I think going forward to the government agencies, risk is important and we need to state these are higher risks to us and this is where we need the help.
I would say yes. Whenever we input a project, we really vet it and we talk about it staff-wise, and we will look if there's any risk or how it benefits the municipality, where it benefits everyone, so yes.
My name is Wes. I grew up here, live here, started a business here, work here, but unfortunately lost my business in the flood, and am curious just kind of how we're going to move forward with Fern Trail specifically, the street that runs behind Midtown. Even prior to the flood, there was no riverbanks, and now there's nothing. It's just completely flat. There's also a major 90-degree turn right there behind Midtown, which was not natural, that was man-made. We're going to need to address that, and also how to access the properties that were not completely destroyed down there. I still have a number of them that I could utilize, but because I can't get to them, I'm dead in the water. Wanted to thank everyone for being here. I know we've all got lives going on. We're all in this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
One more round. Sorry, guys. Eddie Gutierrez again. One thing that we haven't really talked about today is the people who are displaced and the infrastructure that's going to be required for that. And, I think I would be remiss if I walked out of this building without talking about that, because there's so many people who, don't have a place to stay. Another thing I will say is I have a lot of frustrations about many things. However, I recognize that this is not the time or place to talk about it.
Andrea Fernandez again, and just to remind you all, this is a comprehensive plan year. So normally we would gather people who are vested in the community and hear your voices like we did 20 years ago. I was not part of that process, but I know that a plan, a long-term plan, 20-year plan was made. And so maybe it's time to really get that plan, that opportunity targeted so that we can create the discussion and the platform for the voices to be heard.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and appreciate everybody. And if you have any other, just reach out to the village. Thank you.